Hello, everyone. My name is Alan Hatter, and this is my presentation on the science of reading. Um, what will we be talking about today? Today we'll be talking about what is the science of reading. Kind of give you a basis of what it is, and a little bit further detail about the background of it. Next, we'll be discussing the theoretical module and talking about each part of it. When I mean each part, I'm talking about the simple view of reading, Scarborough's rope, four-part mental processor, Enhier's phases of word level reading. Next, we'll discuss the different parts and types that go with the science of reading, such as the ones listed on the screen. Next, I'll tell you the difference in between code emphasis and versus meaning emphasis and what they are. I'll go into detail about orthographic mapping, what it is, and why is it important, and that'll be it. So, let's talk about what is the science of reading. Any real science of reading would include all methods or approaches that have been found through research to give kids a learning advantage in reading. The science of reading is a comprehensive collection of topics related to reading skills development from the psychological or psychology of reading development to reading instruction. It requires some basic understanding of brain research and mechanics of reading, or what is often referred to as phonics. Let's talk about the theoretical method, the model, simple view. So, what is the simple view? The simple view model of reading, it was developed by Gore and Tummer in 1986. It was developed as a research supported representation of how reading comprehension develops. Gore and Tummer developed the simple view to analyze the role and the importance of decoding and reading. The model is based on word recognition and comprehension. The simple view model of reading is important because understanding the formula can help educators with assessing reading weaknesses and providing appropriate instruction of how to move forward with helping a struggling reader. Now, let's talk about Scarborough's reading rope. The Scarborough's reading rope theoretical model of reading was developed by Hollis Scarborough. Scarborough's reading rope is used as strands to connect skilled reading. Skilled reading is defined as fluent execution and coordination of word recognition and text comprehension. It consists of a lower strand and an upper strand. It is important because it captures the essence of the task. It's also important because when the student is struggling in areas as reading, Scarborough's rope allows us to ask which strand or strands need strengthening and to help with their reading. Now, let's talk about the four mental processor. So, what is it? The model of reading, it was developed by scientists Seidenberg and McClellan in 1989. Um, the model consists of the context processor, meaning processor, phonological processor, and the orthographic processor all working together. The purpose of the model is to help with word recognition. According to the four-part processing model, recognizing words as meaningful entities requires communication among the phonological processor, orthographic processor, and meaning processor. It is important because students cannot comprehend text if they cannot read it accurately and fluently according to the reading material. So let's talk about Enhier's phases of word level reading. The Enhier's phases of word level reading theoretical method of reading was developed by Linnea C. Inher. It consists of four stages, which are pre-alphabetic, partial alphabetic, full alphabetic, and consolidated alphabetic. The pre-alphabetic stage occurs prior to any alphabetic knowledge. In other words, identification does not involve making any letter-to-sound connection. Partial alphabetic stage is the phase the readers use to combine reading some words and using an attempt to put the pronunciation with it. The first and final letters are usually the most important within this phase. Next phase is the full alphabetic phase, in which readers are now able to make a full alphabetic connection. The consolidated stage is like where memory becomes reduced. It is important because Inher's contribution to work on the phases of reading has been to introduce greater flexibility to the phases as well as break down and define alphabetic phases more clearly. So, let's talk about phonological awareness. So, what is it? Phonological awareness is the ability to notice the sound structure of spoken words. Advanced phonological awareness involves manipulating phonemes, which includes deleting, substituting, and reversing phonemes within words. Why is it important? The combination of explicit phonics and phonological training for all students in kindergarten and first grade levels provides far greater results in word level reading than in any other teaching practices that has been studied. Early explicit and systemic instruction in phonics along with direct instruction in phonological awareness can prevent and also remediate reading difficulties. Now let's talk about phonics. What is phonics? Phonics is a system for approaching reading that focuses on the relationship between letters and sounds. Orthographic mapping is the ability to quickly and efficiently add words to your sight vocabulary. Let's talk about why it's important. It is important because when we see a word, the areas of the brain responsible for orthography and phonology, which are the familiar spelling and pronunciation, activate before the areas responsible for systemic, which is meaning. It is also important because students taught on code-based approach perform on average the equivalent of 7 to 8 standard test scores higher than on reading comprehension than the ones taught on the meaning-based approach. So let's talk about fluency. What is fluency? Fluency is the ability to read text quickly, accurately, with proper expression. Fluency is determined by the size of your sight vocabulary or sight words. Let's talk about why it's important. Students who are fluent readers are better able to devote their attention to comprehending the text, to comprehending the text. Fluency is the bridge between decoding words and understanding what has been read. Let's talk about vocabulary. What is vocabulary? Vocabulary is knowledge of the words and word meaning. The knowledge of a word not only implies a definition, but also implies how that word fits in the world. Connecting meaning to spelling patterns of words can be critical to expanding the student's vocabulary. Now let's talk about why vocabulary is important. Vocabulary is the glue that holds stories, ideas, and content together, making reading comprehension possible for children. Children's vocabulary skills are linked to their economic backgrounds by by 3 years of age. There are 30 million word gaps between children from the wealthiest and poorest families. Now let's talk about code emphasis versus meaning emphasis. So let's talk about code emphasis. Code emphasis approach to learning reading skills requires students to learn a specific code or set of letters and words. This is in a controlled setting where they are chosen specifically by the teachers for the lessons. Um, so I went into detail about both of those. Now let's talk about meaning emphasis. Meaning emphasis encourages the use of word reading. This is the type of approach that introduces a large variety of words that seemingly appear often in different types of text, regardless of sound pattern. So it encourages reading words and introduces large variety of words. Code emphasis meaning you the positive results among comprehension and fluency. In one of the sources that I found, it seemed to be more of what students were more helpful. So let's talk about orthographic mapping. Um, so orthographic mapping has been known about since the late 1970s. Um, it was first described by Linnea Earnhardt when work in the 1980s provided evidence for orthographic mapping. However, it didn't become popular until the 1990s after British researchers began to work with her theory. Orthographic mapping is the process of competent readers use to store written words so that in the future encounters with words or similar letter strings that they are able to automatically recall the word or letter strings without needing to go into the decoding process. Once the word has been decoded, which requires good awareness of the sound in the word and a well-developed phonic knowledge of the word or letter string is associated, other similar word patterns already stored in long-term memory start to finally, come back to that person. So, in conclusion, today we have covered what the science of reading is. We've covered in detail about the theoretical models containing pertaining to the science of reading, um, code emphasis versus meaning emphasis, and orthographic mapping. And here are my sources. Thank you.